So the following is for educational purposes only, and a documented historical operation. At the time this article was written, it was the 70th anniversary. On the afternoon of October 13th, 1947, an Air Force B-17 aircraft penetrated a hurricane 415 miles east of Jacksonville and dumped several pounds of crushed dry ice into the storm, just to see what would happen. Previous year, Vincent Schaefer, working at GE Laboratories, discovered that by introducing dry ice into an environment with super cold water, well, he could induce the water to freeze into ice. And then the realization came that this could spur reactions that would alter clouds and precipitation. Following this, an agreement was made with the Naval Research Laboratory and the Army Signal Corps to carry out experiments where Air Force aircraft would seed clouds and fog with dry ice to see what changes occurred. It wasn't long before plans were made to try a seeding experiment in a hurricane. Okay, now let's go back to October of 1947. The hurricane hitting Florida had moved off the coast and continued out to sea. Two B-17s had left Mobile, Alabama and flew east to intercept the hurricane. The first bomber flew at cloud top level and did the seeding. Large chunks of dry ice were fed into a crusher on the plane, and they were dumped from the belly of the plane into the clouds below. The second B-17 followed a half mile behind and documented the changes. One side note, the aircraft lacked the sophisticated homing gear necessary in order to penetrate the eye or heavy rain bands, so they stuck to just seeding the outer clouds. Imagine that. See, now here's where things get interesting. They first made a run over 100 miles, dumping only 80 pounds of ice along the way. Next, there were two additional runs, dropping 50 pounds each into one large cloud formation at the top. Now they noticed after the first run that the cloud deck below began to break up. But after the second test, the cloud top continued to grow. So the following day, the scientists went out to see the result of the previous day's experiment. But the hurricane wasn't where they expected it to be. It was nearly 100 miles west of the projected track. The hurricane had made a 135-degree left turn and was now moving due west. And on top of that, it was strengthening. By the afternoon of the 15th, Hurricane King struck Savannah, Georgia. One person lost their life, and the storm surge cost Georgia and South Carolina $2 million in damage. As you can imagine, there was a massive amount of public outrage. Threats of lawsuits, especially when the head of GE Labs, Dr. Irving Langmuir, issued a statement that he was 99% sure that the storm had changed course due to the seeding. But the case was dropped when the chief of the Weather Bureau, Dr. Francis Rickenflegger, thought differently and found a case where a hurricane had followed a similar track but had not been seeded. The case was published and the threats of lawsuits eventually just went away. It would be some time again before governmental agencies would dare this type of endeavor after what had happened. Not long though. 15 years later, 1962, the U.S. Weather Bureau and the Department of Defense, they reached a formal agreement to carry out and attempted to seed hurricanes again. Now, could you just imagine, 1947, that was quite some time ago, the technological advances that we have made since then. Have yourself a wonderful day.